Hey guys, MadLab, how you guys doing? Rainmaker program, podcast. Greg Mack. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Wanted to continue our little discussion on team building in the Rainmaker 301 program, which comes after the Rainmaker 201, obviously. And hopefully you've got yourself involved in Rainmaker 201, which is about how to be an effective communicator in the sales process, interacting with people in your community who might inquire about what you do, or you might be out sharing what you do and get some interest that way, which I encourage. And communication is the key, right? Being an excellent communicator is really going to help you in this process. And so that concept extends to the Rainmaker 301 program, where we're talking about a team building and team process, and communication is really fundamental to effective teamwork versus group or chaos or mob work, where you're just kind of showing up, you're not sure what's going on, you do your job and you leave, hoping that nobody bothers you. If you're in that situation right now in your gym, that's bad. Not cool. Hopefully not. Hopefully you guys are getting along well and working together seamlessly and getting tasks done, because that's what teams are about, getting tasks done, identifying what needs to be done, building a coalition and consensus about getting that done, and then working daily, weekly, monthly, yearly to achieve that task. And then develop another team to tackle another task. And really that's what teams are about. And one of the key ideas behind effective team function and what differentiates team from group and mob and chaos is clear roles. And we spend a bunch of time in the Rainmaker 301 team building course on clarifying roles of team members, because if people really don't know what their job is and what their responsibilities are, and really the utmost possible clarity, you get a lot of redundancy, a lot of things being dropped and not getting done, and that leads to a lot of frustration. And so individual role responsibilities and clarity needs to be established. This takes work. This is going to take some real work for a while to really flush out all these individual things that need done to make this gym go and to meet this task that you need done. And so what's critical about individual role clarity is it really defines expected contribution. And when this isn't clear, you got problems. You got communication problems, and there's going to be issues getting things done, and you're going to be backing up and redoing things, arguing and fighting and gossiping and all kinds of crazy, terrible things that tear teams down and groups apart. And so it's important to really look at, what is your general manager really supposed to be doing, and what are they going to be held accountable for? What is the owner supposed to be doing, and what are they going to be held accountable for? What is a utility coach, part-time or full-time, really supposed to be doing, and what's their job in the most clearest definition of that, and what's expected of them in terms of their contribution, as well as what's not expected of them. And so, we got to do that. We got to get our hands around and our minds around what individuals in the team bring to the table in terms of skills, experiences, and knowledge, because all that coalesces into a clear understanding of everybody's role. And I don't know if you guys like sports. I use sports analogies a lot, especially team sports, where you can see a team functioning like in hockey or basketball or baseball. And there's a lot of sports going on right now, so I'm pretty excited about that. My Columbus Blue Jackets, a hockey team, are in the playoffs and hanging in there, doing well. And so it's fun to watch the team function to meet the task at hand, which is to win the game. And you win the game by stopping the other team from scoring goals, and by you scoring goals. Pretty simple, within some rule set. And every player has their own skills, their own position, their responsibilities, what they're accountable for during the game. And without that clarity, it's going to be a problem for that team. And so one of the most important things is to figure out what your individual strengths are. And some of you may know already what they are, and that's great. If you asked some of the people around you who know you well, they could probably start giving you a list of your strengths, and that's important because you got to leverage those things. And it's also important to know what your weaknesses are and try to figure out a way as a team to get rid of these things and to make them irrelevant, because you're not good at everything. Get over it. You're not. And so you might think you're good at some things, you're really not. And that can be tough on the ego, right? And that's an our problem. We talk about that in Rainmaker 201. If you're not good at something and you think you are, you're going to have to face that reality in the team process and get focused on what you're good at and move in that direction. One of my favorite quotes about accountability and responsibility comes from Admiral Hyman Rickover, founder and father of the U.S. Navy's nuclear program, put nuclear power plant on a submarine. Crazy. No one thought it could be done. He did it. And he calls accountability responsibility like this. He says, it's a unique concept that can only reside and adhere in a single individual. You may share it with others, but your portion is not diminished. You may delegate it, but it is still with you. You may disclaim it, but you can not divest yourself of it. Unless you can point your finger at the man who is responsible when something goes wrong, then you have never had anyone really responsible. Man, that's some strong words right there. It's powerful. Teams are made up of individuals. Individuals have role responsibilities and hopefully role clarity and accountability for those things. And if you don't want to be held accountable for what you do, you should not be on the team. That's it. Get off the team if you want to be held accountable for your behavior professionally while you function in the team. And so what's important for leadership and everyone to understand is you got to know what your responsibilities are before you can be held accountable for them. And this is an exhaustive process and a tedious process of defining as clearly as possible everything that person, that the title of that person, whatever their individual responsibility title is, needs to be clarified. And there's formal definitions here, right? Formal lists, and this is important. There's also the informalities, right? The emotional and spiritual and psychological contributions to team in terms of morale and emotional support that you give each other. And of course, the common things that everybody shares in terms of meetings and filing reports and getting regular reviews of your performance. So all these things fit into the process of role clarity and role responsibility. And so once that's established and confusion can be put to rest and chaos put in a box and taken outside and burned, you guys can go back to what we talked about before, which is capturing cooperative synergy at the highest possible level. And that's really what team is about. And so it's an attitude, and so I don't want to give you the impression as I talk about this that we're, creating an individual who's fenced off from everybody else and doing their roles and nothing else. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is everybody individually understands what they do and how that fits in with everybody else's roles and who they're supposed to communicate with and crosstalk with as the day and weeks and months go by. Because all too often I hear this, at the end of a work day or work week, right? Somebody says, well, I did my job. I'm done. I'm leaving. That's not my responsibility. This is the wrong attitude about that. Absolutely, you should get things done that you're responsible and held accountable for. But if you have teammates that need some help, your job's done. Guess what your job now is, informally, to help them get their job done. And so that attitude of, hey, I did my job, I'm walking away, that's not cool. That's got to stop. That's got to be flushed out pretty quickly in the team process. So you have personal responsibility and mutual accountability and responsibility. And so this is why this is such a hard thing to capture the kind of team dynamic we're talking about. It's not for kids. It's for adults. It's difficult to do, but it's so worth the effort and the time when you get to the end of the task and you get this done, and everybody wins. Everybody wins. And so you got to focus on your strengths, both self-proclaimed and what other people recognize in you. You got to recruit to your weaknesses if you can. You got to look at the edges, right? You got to ask yourself, why are we doing it that way? Can we do it better? You got to read the book on all your teammates and get to know them, care about them, and love them. You got to be proactive in your communication and seek input from everybody and find the problems. You got to ensure there's differences and diversity, but not for diversity's sake. You need complementary diversity, and you got to ensure that roles and talent are skill-based and be sensitive to the interfaces as you interact with everybody. So quick summary on that particular section of Rainmaker 301. If you're a gym owner, general manager, team leader, head coach in your gym right now, I would really encourage you to take a hard look at the Rainmaker 301 program at this point, and really get your group accelerated to high levels of cooperation, synergy, so that you guys can really have the most profound expression of win-win possible.